is The Trails West by Timothy, Peyton, and Maia.
This is a map of the trails going west and where they took the paths. People moved west for money and gold. They saw the opportunity to get rich if they traveled west. Manufacturers and merchants saw this opportunity to make and sell items to farmers and make very fast profit. And they wanted to have fertile land to farm, even if it was taken from Native Americans.
The Mormons moved west to spread their religion and beliefs. One of the main things they practiced was polygamy, which allowed a man to have more than one wife. Obviously, there are going to be people who don't like this, so they killed their leader, Joseph Smith, put the new leader, Brigham Young, led them onto the Oregon Trail and into Utah. The mountain men would trap small animals and sell their fur to people, and they would kill off all the animals in one area and go look for more in another area. And by doing that, they would make new trails and paths. They would also provide information about the far west. One trail that they made was the South Pass. It was so low that the snow couldn't block the path, and it was wide and not steep, so wagons could pass easier. People on the trails would have to struggle against the terrain, weather, diseases, lack of supplies, and many other things. They would also have to deal with the possibility of their wagon breaking. Another thing they would have to worry about was incidents, like possibly falling off the wagon and getting hurt. Also, women could give birth on the trails.
The dark side of the trails are the things that aren't shown that much. For example, the bright side would be the big reward at the end of the trails, the land, the money, the big opportunities, the gold, while the dark side would be things like deaths and the risks that came along with the reward. High risk, high reward. They wanted to travel to the west for the big reward that they thought was at the end, but many of them got stuck because of heavy snow in the mountains, and they ran out of food and resulted in cannibalism.
An example of this could be the Donner Party, as they moved west for the big rewards. But as they moved through the mountains, the heavy snow blocked their path, causing them to stop. And as they ran out of food, they resorted to cannibalism.
Women had a very basic job on the trails. They did the basic things like provide for the family, like food, clothing, etc. They also did the hard labor as well, since things would go faster if everyone helped and pitched in. The manifest destiny was the thought and the ideas of moving west, and the trails west was part of the action and how they got there, even though a lot of them didn't even make it. After Mexico gained independence from Spain, it opened its borders for traders. William Becknell went to Santa Fe with items to sell. By making it there, he made a trail to Santa Fe. Once he was there, he made a fortune selling items. When he returned back, people found out that he was making so much money from selling items in Mexico. But he went back to sell more things. This time, he loaded his wagons with items and covered them so people couldn't see. He went on the same trails but ran into a problem. He couldn't move the wagon over the mountains that were on the trail, so he found a shortcut that didn't go through such steep slopes and mountains. But the only downside was that it went through a desert and almost died from thirst. People wanted to move and go into Oregon through the Oregon Trail, but they didn't know who owned Oregon, because it was either the US or Britain that owned Oregon, but they didn't know for sure exactly, and they were in conflict about it. But when people heard about the land, the sun, the pigs, the grass, in 1843 about 1,000 people had traveled to Oregon, and then the next year twice as many people came.